I'm so excited that you're considering studying naturopathy because we need more naturopaths in the world. Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, my name is Naz. I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Health Science to become a naturopath, and I've just finished my first semester. So as you can see from the title, I have designed this for any people that are considering studying naturopathy or have already begun their studies. I'm gonna have my phone here because I've written a bunch of notes on there. This video is just kind of give you a rundown of what subjects you do in the first semester, what to expect, and just some little like tips and tricks that I have as well. So let's get straight into it. I am currently studying with Endeavour College. There are a couple of other colleges, I believe. I know that Torrens is the other main one. Yeah, I'm studying with Endeavour. The degree is 4 years full-time. I'm currently studying part-time, but the awesome thing about Endeavour is that they do lots of intakes. So for my first semester, all the intakes, there was one like every single month, which just meant that I could kind of work my study around my life and sort of chop and change between which months I wanted to study and which ones I wanted to have off. They do also have a diploma option if you aren't wanting to jump straight into a full 4-year degree. I know that Endeavour has, it's like a diploma of, I don't know, it's essentially the first year of a naturopathy degree though. So you can kind of do that, get your diploma, and then if you don't want to continue, you've come away with a diploma rather than just doing the first year of a degree and then not getting any recognition for it. So yeah, if you're just wanting to dip your toe in, the diploma could be a really great option. They do have a lot of information on their website. I'll let you guys go and check that out, but just so that you're aware. And yeah, the other thing just to be aware of is that they do mostly online study. I live in Tasmania, Australia, so I'm obviously doing the first part of my degree online. For me personally, I will have to move interstate when it comes to doing on-campus stuff, like being in clinic. That will be more towards third year, I believe. All right, let's jump into what subjects you actually do in semester 1, and then we'll delve a little bit deeper into each of those. So for my degree, so to become a naturopath, the first subjects that you do are Human Biological Science 1, Chemistry and Biochemistry, History of Healing, Foundations of Communication and Counselling, and also Naturopathic Philosophy, Principles and Practice. So these each go for 13 weeks, so it's just a semester, and between all those subjects, at Endeavour College they have like full subjects and also like half subjects. So as an example, a full subject would be 5 hours of scheduled like lectures and stuff, and then 5 hours of your personal study time, which makes a 10-hour full-time subject. Having said that, the Foundations of Communication, Counselling and Naturopathic Philosophies, Principles and Practice are both half subjects, meaning there's only 1 lecture a week instead of 2, and yeah, basically just half the workload. So you kind of have 3 bigger subjects and then 2 small subjects in your first semester. So the way that I kind of structured actually completing these subjects might be different for other people, but because Endeavour does really awesome monthly intakes, what I did was that I began biochemistry and chemistry in May of last year, so May 2022. I then finished that, so I only did that 1 subject to begin with, and because I haven't studied in so many years, like I'm 25, I haven't been at school since like 2016, it was kind of eye-opening and terrifying all at once to jump straight into biochem. So yeah, I just did that 1 subject, and then in October I started History of Healing and Communication and Counselling, and then in December I also took on Biological Science 1 and Naturopathic Philosophies, Principles and Practice. So those first 2 that I started in October finished about mid-January, and then the other 2 finished like mid-March. So that's what I love about online study with Endeavour, is that there's lots of flexibility with it. So yeah, I sort of had the ability to design my own semester and what that would look like for me and how that would work around like work and other life commitments that I have. Let's just quickly dive into each subject and what to expect. So Human Biological Science 1 it's biological science. Pretty straightforward. This was the last subject that I completed. For this one, there was 2 open book. There was like an open book quiz, an open book mid-semester exam, and then there was also a final exam, which was closed book. I'm going to tell you about the assessments that I had to do. I believe that they'll probably change these as time goes on. I looked back on the ones for biochem and they've already changed slightly, so I'm just going to tell you what I did and just some quick little like tips and stuff like that. yeah, so basically the 2 open book ones I found pretty straightforward. You can have all your notes and stuff in front of you, take full advantage of that. I got really good marks on these, so I was sitting on about 40 to 41% before I went into my final exam. Now my final exam was worth 50% of my grade. I just needed to be able to pass the subject. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a straight A student. I work hard and I want to be able to understand the material, but if I don't get the best grades ever, it's really not going to bother me. At the end of the day, if I get C's, I'm still going to end up with my degree. So that's sort of the attitude that I have. I want to be able to understand the content and be the best practitioner that I can be. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to slog myself to get straight A's because it's just not realistic for me. So my final exam, as I said, they may change this, but for Biological Science 1, the final exam was in 3 parts. The first part was like multi-choice questions. The second part was matching like statements with or questions with answers. And then the third one was a list of 12 questions that you knew ahead of time. Like I had access to them pretty much as soon as I started the subject. And you basically just had to provide answers. So you could pre-prepare these, which was the best thing ever. And each you were to prepare 5. So you could pick 5 out of the 12, prepare your answers, memorize those, learn those, and then they would become your answers for your exam. And each of those was worth 10 marks. So basically, if you got all the questions right, and you memorized them and learnt them, you were easily going to pass that exam, which is basically what I did. And then I just did a little bit of study on top of that. Biological science, yeah, it's pretty straightforward, as the name suggests. So for chemistry and biochemistry, that was the first subject that I took on. It was very, very science-based, as you can imagine, and it was quite overwhelming for me. There was just so much information to learn. My first assessment was an open book quiz. Once again, I have all my notes in front of me. For that one, I would just recommend, if it is the same when you guys do it, there was like a bunch of different functional groups. I listed all those out and I'm so glad that I did because a lot of questions ended up being about those. They may have changed it, whatever. But yeah, I remember that first assessment because I was freaking out. So that was the first assessment. The second assessment was a essay, which I use the textbook so much to help me understand stuff for that essay. It was pretty straightforward. Yeah, I got really good marks on it though, which kind of surprised me because I wasn't expecting to. And then I just had an exam at the very end of that subject. That is the one that I think they've already changed the assessments for. When I went back, there was just an open book quiz, and I think they do 2 written assessments now, so there's not actually an exam. Anyway, yeah, I did really well in that subject. I got a distinction, which should surprise me a lot because I thought I was gonna fail for so long. I was like, this is so hard. You don't need to know everything. That's my advice for that subject. You do not need to memorize and learn everything. Like, really, you don't. Just stress less. That's what I needed to tell myself at that stage. For history of healing, pretty basic subject. It was just all about the history of healing, as the name would suggest. It was really, really interesting learning about this. We went through so many different ancient civilizations, looked at how they utilized healing, what that meant for them. It was really, really interesting. There were quite a few different little assessments for this subject. I did pretty well in it. I found it pretty straightforward. Yeah. Communication and counseling was like one of the half subjects. Really straightforward. You basically just learn about communication and counseling as a practitioner in regards to having patients in the future. They did a lot of work on ethics in this subject, which was really interesting for me because it's not really something I've learned about before. And then the last subject, naturopathic philosophy, principles and practice. As the name suggests, the subject was all about naturopathy, principles and philosophies and stuff like that. Those are the subjects that were in semester 1. My advice. At Endeavour, you get a week early access to your subjects. So as an example, if your subjects start on the 7th of December, you will get access from about the 1st of December. And then your subject will start on the 7th. So you can start your subject a week early. I highly recommend doing it. I did it for all my subjects, and it just meant that if I was sick or I got really overwhelmed, I could take a week off and I wasn't gonna fall behind. I really suggest doing that if you can. I'm not sure if they'll continue to do that, but so far I've been able to do that with each of my subjects, and I highly suggest that you do as well. In regards to the textbooks, there were prescribed textbooks for every subject. I don't think I used many of them. The only ones I really used were the ones for biochem and also biological science. Amongst the other ones, I barely picked them up. if you're somebody who does all the recommended readings for the classes, definitely get the textbooks. I'm not that student, so I didn't. But yeah, I definitely use the ones for biochem, biological science, and honestly, one of my other subjects, they just had links to like ebooks for the parts that you had to write about for assessments. So in the end, I didn't even need a textbook for that subject. Up to you if you get them all, but I would definitely suggest getting the one for biochem and also the one for biological science. Just stay really organized. That is my biggest piece of advice. As you can see behind me on the wall, I actually print out my calendars and I do like 3 months, and then when 1 month goes down, I put up the next month. So I always have like 3-month spreadsheet in front of me, and I write all my assessment due dates on there just so that I'm not getting any rude surprises. And I also suggest printing out the subject outlines. You can actually look at all the subject outlines on Endeavour right now for every single subject that you have to do in naturopathy. I'd highly suggest doing that. You can see what assessments you will have for each subject. You can see the study load, you can see the subject overview. You can actually see everything you're studying each week. So it kind of gives you a bit of a summary. And you can actually go and access that stuff right now. I'll leave a link down below of the Endeavour website for the naturopathy degree, just so you guys can kind of see all the subjects and look at the subject outlines. Just a quick note on the hours that they recommend for each subject. The 10 hours for me was not realistic. Most weeks I only did the modules, and then during weeks where there were assessments due, that would be the time that I'd be spending probably 10-15 hours on each subject to really smash out the essays and stuff like that. A lot of weeks it was not 10 hours, it was a lot less than that. But if you guys once again want to be the straight A student, that's probably what you need to be doing. But yeah, don't stress too much if you're not spending that much time on each subject. Also, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. If you're just starting to study or you're considering it, please don't forget about Studiosity. At Endeavour, we have access to Studiosity for free, which if you guys have never used it before, essentially if you have a written assignment, you can submit it and you can say whether you want them to check referencing or spelling or grammar, whatever it is. You can check all of them. They will go through your essay and they'll give you feedback on it. I like to do this once I've gone through an essay and I think it's fine. I'll then put it into Studiosity, and sometimes I'll pick up like a few extra little things, or they might just say, hey, you need to word this differently, or hey, your reference list was a little bit off here and here, maybe redo it. But yeah, also with your referencing, I use a reference generator. Feel free to Google it. I just use this as the basic thing to get all my stuff in order, and then at the very end of each essay I'll actually go through according to the library reference guide on Endeavour and just make sure everything's perfect, because the referencing generators don't get it perfect. So I'll use that as sort of the draft, and then I'll go through and check it afterwards. But I would highly suggest that. It does take a lot of work out of it. Just don't like trust them fully. Okay, that's kind of everything I wanted to go through with you guys in this video. I hope it's been helpful. Yeah, my biggest tips, just chill out. Okay, if you're anything like me, when you first started studying, I was freaking out thinking I had to absolutely know every little detail that was getting taught. I have a friend who's in her 4th year, and she just said, like, you'll continue to go over the really important stuff, so even if you don't learn everything perfectly in your first semester, you are going to be fine. Just remember that. Remember that it's okay if you have a bad week here and there. I had so many weeks during the semester where my brain just wasn't working with study, and I'd have a day off. And I'd beat myself up about it, being like, oh, you should be studying, you're gonna get behind. No, it's fine. If you start a week early, you've got that week up your sleeve, which was so good to know. If you have any other questions, my Instagram is just Life with Naz. I'll link it below. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments, or you can just private message me on Instagram. And yeah, if you want to see any other videos that I haven't already covered on my channel, please also let me know. I want to create content that will be helpful for you guys. I also forgot to mention that I found a Facebook group which is for 1st and 2nd year Endeavour students. I'm going to link that below as well. I only found it recently, and I wish I'd found it last year when I started my degree, because it would have been really, really helpful. But yeah, everybody on that group is super supportive as well, so if you have any questions, you can leave them in there too and hear other students' advice and experience and stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was really helpful for you. Have the best day ever. Bye.